This story is called Blessed by Jim Carrey.
It was time to succeed in the year 2001. And apparently Jim Carrey felt the same way about his career. Granted, he was a movie star and a huge box office draw, but he wanted respect. He wanted an Oscar. A few years prior, it seemed he felt snubbed by the Academy when they had nominated The Truman Show for Best Director, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Original Screenplay, but no nomination for Best Actor. Like most comedians, Carrey wanted to be taken seriously for his dramatic chops. The Majestic was his bid for respect from Hollywood. Directed by Frank Darabont, The Shawshank Redemption, this was a potential cinematic masterpiece. Jim Carrey starred in The Majestic, and for 7 seconds, I was his co-star. I had been hired along with 200 others to be a background extra in the film. It was an exciting overnight shoot at the historic Grauman's Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, complete with full hair and makeup and 1950s wardrobe. Carrey was very serious on set. He never cracked a smile. The opening sequence involved a long Steadicam shot that followed Carrey from the back of the theater holding popcorn and soda as he walked down the side aisle towards a seat in the front. I really wanted to be seen in this epic motion picture, and I hit the jackpot when an assistant director placed me in the aisle where the camera would brush right past my shoulder. As it did so, I would follow my lady friend to our seats. On the first take, I did what I was told, but as the camera swooshed by, I took a step back to avoid stepping on her billowing poodle skirt. In that moment of retreat, I could feel my shoulder bumping against somebody else's body in the crew, maybe a boom operator or camera assistant. I didn't know, because when you're an extra, you can't look at the action going on in the scene, or your eyes might cross the camera and it would look like you're looking at the lens. Cut! Do you know what you just did? A production assistant snapped at me through clenched teeth. You bumped into Mr. Carrey, the freaking star of the film. If you can't handle this, I will send you home and find someone who can. I profusely apologized and promised I could handle it. It was a big, unnecessary spectacle witnessed by 200 extras and needlessly humiliating moment for me, which was his aim. 10 minutes later, Jim Carrey walked up to me, laid his hand on my shoulder, and said, "Hey." "Hey," I replied nervously as his saintly, famous hand rested next to my neck. Was this a gesture of familiarity or reassurance, or is this how world-famous movie stars fire a lowly extra? The rule for extras is that you are never, ever supposed to speak to the talent, and I never would have done so. Well, unless it was Julia Roberts. Jim smiled at me and nodded, took his hand off my shoulder, and walked back to his A position in the back of the theater. Everyone was watching, and a few extras walked up to me and asked what he had said. He said, "Hey," I told them. I have no idea why. But it turns out Jimmy, which by now is what I was calling him in my head, loved my little action of stepping into his frame and causing him to spill some popcorn. It was one of life's happy accidents that became the highlight of my background talent career. Long after I'm dead, people will see my 7 seconds in The Majestic and wonder, who is that striking young extra backing into Jim Carrey, and how did this moment come about? Well, now the record is straight. Extras in Hollywood movies and TV shows come from everywhere, especially prison. When California inmates finish paying their debts to society and are released on probation, they are given the phone number to Central Casting. It's the one career that demands no job skills or personal hygiene. These embezzlers, rapists, and child pornographers are now well-muscled members of society who exist to terrify everyone else on set. They're creepy, and often women, the usual target, try to find a sane man to spend the day with, to be their new friend and buffer them from the creeps. My face, seen here, playing a nurse in the background of the practice, had "new friend" and "buffer" written all over it. In fact, my first day as an extra, a young woman casually asked me, "So, do you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend?" It was such a casually, wonderfully worded question. It took a while for me to learn what each person does on set. I used to do everything myself on Danny the Clown Show. I learned that grips set lights and gaffers diffuse lights. Craft service is the fancy term for the caterers. People in the wardrobe departments always have a cloth tape measure draped over their shoulders, like an honor cord on a valedictorian. Makeup is applied by funky youngsters with outrageous style, or aging, earthy women with long gray hair and a French braid and mothball-scented clothing. I never figured out what a best boy is or does, but I assume it involves being a boy who is the best at his job. Year 2001 was primarily fun being an extra. I wore a backpack and played a college student in the background of The Parkers sitcom with future Oscar winner Monique. I spent a day on Family Law with one of my biggest childhood idols, Tony Danza. I marveled at how much makeup was caked on Dylan McDermott's handsome face in The Practice. I clapped in a Wallflowers music video. I walked into a darkened school around 2 a.m. during the filming of Orange County and found Kevin Kline alone, stretching his back against the stairs. I asked him where the restroom was, and he was kind enough to tell me. I was outfitted in a $2,000 pinstripe medium-sized suit on Arliss, where the wardrobe man told me to, quote, be careful not to bust the zipper because that suit is more valuable than you are, end quote. And in more positive situations, I got to spend the day on some of the best hour-long TV series ever made. ER, The West Wing, Gilmore Girls, and 6 Feet Under. I still can't believe I was in the White House during the best administration this country has ever seen. President Josiah Bartlett. Hey, how you doing? A man said from behind, as I was dishing up my lunch. I turned around. Marty! Martin Sheen stuck out his hand, living up to his reputation as being the nicest celebrity in Hollywood. I had heard this about him from other extras on sets. Hi, Dan, I said, with a soggy noodle half in, half out of my mouth. You've been here before, right? He continued. You look familiar. No, sir, this is my first day. Welcome to the family, he said. Enjoy your time in the White House. I jumped back and insisted he get in line before me. I wasn't even sure why he was at our food line. Mr. Sheen refused and insisted I get my food before him. I can't fathom the fact that I was in Luke's Diner in Stars Hollow with Lorelai and Rory, and that I danced in a club behind the most interesting gay couple to ever grace TV, David and Keith. I had unusually short days on Providence and Strong Medicine, but they weren't all good times in Hollywood. Van Wilder was a mess. I had been driving Victoria Jackson's SUV for the past month. We were talking on the phone about my time on the LA buses, and she couldn't believe I was taking public transportation all over town just to make $50 a day. She was such a good friend, she FedExed the keys to her vehicle that was just parked unused at her apartment in North Hollywood. Suddenly I had wheels. On Ally McBeal, I was hired to play a towel boy at a pool filled with hardbodies. I had a nice white polo shirt and red swimsuit and a badge with my character's name on it. Before filming, the wardrobe woman told me to take off my shirt. Sorry, no, I insisted, having no desire to get half naked in prime time. I'm obviously playing a pool attendant. I have the shirt with a name tag. Pin it on your shorts, she snapped. I very reluctantly removed my shirt. She stood back and stared at me. Be happy I approve of your body, she said, as she clumped away in her wedge heels. On the morning I was to play a Jewish young man during the opening scene of Van Wilder, I locked the keys in the SUV. So to begin with, it cost me more to get a Beverly Hills locksmith to come and pop the locks than what I was making for the whole day. Secondly, the glue from the payats, the Jewish curls some Orthodox Jews wear, based on the idea in Leviticus that one can't shave the corners of one's head, was really driving me crazy. As was the yarmulke, tightly hairpinned to the back of my head. It was a scene where we were having traditional Jewish communion when a big crowd of drunken party animals come over and throw a bash. The scene ended with me and two other guys dancing on a sturdy table to Wild Thing. It sounds fun, as I relive it, but I was not in such a mood that day. The tow truck experience left me feeling that I was paying to be in a Ryan Reynolds movie. On top of it all, I got yelled at for standing in the lunch line of the talent and not the background line. I was sick of Hollywood's bullshit habit of calling actors talent, and the rest of us were, what, talentless junkyard dogs? Fortunately, Tech from the real world saw me getting screamed at, and he insisted I get my food before him. I said, no, I'll get fired. And he replied, bro, I got your back. I'm one of the stars of this joint. Another bad day was on Martin Lawrence's movie National Security. We had to stand in fake Hollywood rain and cop uniforms for a funeral scene. I had no idea what 200 wet wool uniforms smelled like, but now I do. Have you ever pulled a feral cat from a sewer in Mumbai? That's it. That's the smell. For the I'm Real Jennifer Lopez video, we had to run through a field of briars, but dancing at the foot of the stage was great. The shoot was 12 hours, but totally worth it, getting to watch a diva do her thing all day. Somehow, I booked a modeling print ad for Mazda and made $800 in one afternoon. Something had to be off in the universe for me to get a job as a model. Up was down, black was white. Still, it happened. The photographer and crew were Japanese, and no one spoke a lick of English except for the set translator. This one was actually fun because there were only 4 of us in front of the camera. It's the one and only time in life I've ever been paid to pose for a picture. The best movie I was an extra in was Ocean's 11, directed by Steven Soderbergh and starring 2 men named Pitt and Clooney, who are shorter than you thought, but every bit as good-looking as you hoped. I did 13 hours on this film. For one setup, we were supposed to walk toward camera, never looking at it, of course, as Clooney and Pitt exited a bar and walked away. On the first take, Brad Pitt walked right toward me, so I swerved out of the way. Cut! Once again, as had happened in the Majestic, I was yelled at by an AD. What were you doing? She snapped. Why did you swerve around him? If someone were about to bump into you on the street, would you get out of the way? Yes, I winced. Should I get someone else to do your job? She snapped. No, I could do it. And for the next 7 takes, I purposely walked right into Brad Pitt's right shoulder, nearly knocking him over on take 5.